Halfway through the day now, everybody, and we've seen two matches that have been, I would say, blowouts might be the best way to describe both of them. We've got two more now that I'm not sure if either of these two coming up will be blowouts. We'll start with the first one right now that you will be witnessing, and it'll be Favelas taking on Investigation File. Tanner, Favelas, they've looked good. They did have that loss yesterday to Aerial Rise. They dug themselves a bit of a hole in that one, but I mean, they're still 2-1, looking a lot stronger this stage than previous.
I mean, that's just the bio effect. Every team that he ends up joining ends up becoming a team and playing relatively well. And as the stage progresses, I highly expect them to continue to improve with how they like to perform. And one of the big factors that I think is why that's happening is my highlight player today, which is Rudy, who, if you watch last or yesterday's game, he was a dominant force on the side of Favelas. He's one of the reasons they were able to dig themselves or start to dig themselves out of that 5-1 attack half hole that they made themselves for themselves. Um, and Rudy's just one of those players. He's an agent of chaos. He likes to go around and get picks. He likes to be complicated with how he wants to play, and it's just completely confusing his opponents. So if they're going to have any success today, he's a player that's got to step up again.
It's honestly been great to see the turnaround of that roster so far this stage. Investigation File not exactly having the same turnaround that they were hoping for. They had a bit of an uninspired loss, I would describe it as, yesterday against Luminosity, but Connor, it's Luminosity. I mean, can you fault Investigation File on that one?
I do fault their decision making to not only, just map choice. I'll just go map choice. They took Luminosity to an equalizer map, and that's one of the stupidest things you can possibly do. So, the bar, it's all the way on the ground for them to, try to elevate and get over the bar for map choice here against Favelas, and hopefully they won't flounder it again, because this team on paper should be good. Fish, we've seen some good games out of him. He's already kind of brought and similar to what Tanner was saying, agent of chaos effect in the early round for this roster, especially on the defensive roam game. CZ, if the game is offline, he goes absolutely crazy. Wimpy, he is a CPL caliber player, and you have Inrio as well as Vivid, who have been around the block so much. This team should be good, and even with you kind of don't necessarily have the best stats from a player like Wimpy, he's only -2, and he's still getting involved in the entry game, mainly on the defensive side, trying to help create some space with players like Fish. Look for Wimpy to potentially have a big game today.
Now, Tanner, I feel like this is the matchup that Favelas are really looking for. This is one of those matches where, they have the possibility to come away with a win. Another one to pad the stats, build the confidence, and keep building on that cohesiveness this unit has seemed to come away with.
I mean, it's exactly that. They need to take it one game at a time. They need to be looking at the opponent that's right in front of them and making sure that they're not really trying to jump the gun with what they're trying to do. Keep learning the lessons they need to learn. For them, the big lesson that we took away from yesterday is on their defensive side, they need to be more dominant with their entry picks. When they manage to get the opening engagement on defense, they win about, I think my stats says 100%. I need to confirm that, but it's most of the rounds. Most of the rounds they get their defensive entry pick, they are winning those rounds. And then on the attack half, they need to find a way to not be so disjointed. They need to find a way to make sure that they're all attacking at the same time. But doing these fancy Amaru rushes and these fancy plays where one team hits and the next team hits, do it in sync cohesively together. And I think if they can take those two lessons from yesterday and apply them to one shot, take them to maybe like an equalizer map, they've got a very good chance of winning today.
Now, Investigation File, no shortage of critiques to make of this team. What are your views on them going into this one, Connor?
Well, the biggest thing is just kind of the tempo that we've seen come out of Investigation File. Sometimes it is good. This is the first time, going back to a meeting attack yesterday against Luminosity, this is one of the first times we've seen Investigation File rush in so long, and it almost worked. It was so close. I was almost so proud of, hey, they didn't execute at the 20-second mark. This is amazing. This is awesome. But even just by pushing forward just a little bit and having the confidence to go for those early round executes, that is showing that this roster wants to take strides towards being better. And sort of with their attack, that mentality would be trying to really focus on their trade game, because the biggest thing for the Favelas, where the Favelas have found the most success this stage, has been in those big plays on their defense. This is when Slothy gets a 4K. You have somebody like Bio just create chaos and hold an area for so dang long. Those are where Favela is really shining. And for Investigation File, you need to send somebody like Enrio and go 1-for-1 with Slothy. try to shut people down, have some good trades.
Growth is the name of the game between these two teams. Tanner, are we going to see any growth in the map department, or are we going to maybe go back to some old faithfuls?
I mean, for both of these teams, they're not teams with massive map pools. We know Investigation File likes to go to the same kind of maps that they've been playing for, throughout most of this stage. I'm expecting something like an Oregon, maybe a Chalet or Clubhouse. Those are maps that both teams like to go and play. And as we go through the bands here, you can see the Chalet getting taken off the board there by the Favelas. They're also taking out Clubhouse, which is another map that Investigation File would have liked to have gone. So, of course, we're going back to Oregon. Now, this is a map that Investigation File just played yesterday and got absolutely manhandled by LG. I believe it was a 7-3 victory for LG. This is a map that, you know, in the past Gaming Gladiators, or when this roster was known as Gaming Gladiators, this was one of the maps they felt okay on, and they like to keep going to this map. They played this twice, they won once, they lost once. So for both of these teams, this is not exactly their favorite map, but it is a map that they feel comfortable on. I think we're looking at it's going to be at least a competitive game, but I still think it's favoring the side of Favelas based on the map ban.
Connor, Favelas, you as well voted for them. What's your thinking?
This is a map for Investigation File that definitely leans more towards their perma bans, and the one time that we've seen them play it in the last two stages, they went 1-5 on attack. As we know for the trends of this map, you know, it's Velas slowly starting to lean more towards the attacker side of Facet, and it seemed like Investigation File, they were just unable to get anything going on that side. So I'm not really a big fan of seeing them go to this map. Maybe this is a change up. Maybe this is more of their growth. Maybe we're going to see them be a lot better because their defenses weren't that bad, especially in the entry department. 4-0 on their defending entries. Sure, they had an abysmal 50% conversion rate on that stat, but at the end of the day, they were playing against a tough opponent and kind of got stomped regardless. There is still hope for Investigation File. I don't think this is going to be a 7-0 by any stretch of the imagination, but you kind of just got to give the respect to Bio and his squad.
Well, I myself am going to give the respect. I know I had Investigation File, but the more that this pregame has gone on, I gotta say I'm swinging in the favor of Favelas. So I'll be switching my vote to that one and joining you guys on Favelas. Now,
leaving Cookies by himself.
Yeah. You know, whenever Cookies is by himself, he's always wrong. So I don't want to be associated with that.
Knock on wood.
The players are ready. It looks like ready to get into it. We are going to one of those great equalizers. Oregon is going to feature Favelas taking on Investigation File.
All right, thanks, Brim, and hey there, John. Thanks for joining me for the remainder of the day. Oregon should be fun, but as our analysts mentioned, and as we saw from IF the other day, are these great equalizer maps really the place that they are going to shine, especially against a team like the Favelas?
I would have to say absolutely. I mean, it's a map that almost every team knows nowadays. For Investigation Files, this seems like they are comfortable going back here because they're looking to improve. You could maybe say that Luminosity is a much tougher team in comparison to Favelas, so they're expecting to maybe take rounds in the matchup. And then for Favelas, if they just get a little bit better at the coordination on the attacking half, this should be a pretty good map for them as a whole as well. So like the Des mentioned, I think this game is going to be rather close. On paper, this should definitely be favoring Favelas a little bit more, but I still have hope that IF will bring out.
All right, well, certainly a possibility. I mean, we were questioning both of these teams. I mean, just yesterday, we were talking about how they were going to come into their own for the remainder of this stage. You know, would we see the Favelas develop into that top team that it looks like they might be? And will we see IF, a team that Connor mentioned, looks good on paper, but the results have not been showing it? Are we going to see them live up to their potential in a way? Just yesterday, I mean, the Favelas in a game against Aerial Arise, they looked pretty good. They ended up losing that one 5-7 at the end of the day, but they had their moments and it looked pretty good. So as far as Investigation File is concerned, they are going up against a pretty tough opponent today, but doing it on Oregon, like you said, John, these teams know what they're doing and these operator bans are not going to surprise anyone. The Ying taken off the board and the Nook on the attacking side, both limiting the surprise potential of that Nook to creep on in the map, and of course the surprise and the power of those Candelas that can always pop down below, especially on that basement site, and really shake things up. As far as defensive bans are concerned, right, this is not a shocker either. The Azami and the Valkyrie, arguably the two strongest defenders that Siege has to offer right now. With those taken off the board, you've got the black eye cameras, the extra information that the Valkyrie allows removed, and of course those Kiba barriers from the Azami taken off the board as well.
Especially when you normally don't have the ability to bring a lot of utility to deal with that Azami, it can be a little bit easier just to remove her, since she can waste a lot of time, especially if you're a team that's a lot more comfortable with extending up above. A great example is this laundry room bomb site. You could tend to play up above inside of kitchen, maybe have a light roam all the way in the top floor as well, playing near kids' room to make sure no one can go on vertical. So for the most part, that roam game is going to be nullified quite substantially just by removing that Azami on the board. Seems like based on what Favelas is bringing to the table, they're going to want to have mostly a bunker-sided defensive hold, having the Jaeger and Wamai combination on top of having the Warden as well, so you can hold onto those power spots for a lot longer. Even if you don't have those ADSs or magnets currently active, you're still not all too worrisome about having those flashes fully blind you, and with there being less grenades currently in the meta, it's less likely that you're going to have to deal with all too much pressure after those flashes have been flung out.
Yeah, I love the increase in the Warden I think that we've seen recently with those grenade changes like you mentioned, because now with that deployable shield, and especially on this basement site, if that deployable shield like that one right in the corner there of Laundry, if that's not destroyed, and if the one in bunker is not destroyed, right, someone like Arrow can sit behind it much more confidently than before. There are far fewer nades in play total, right? If you look at investigation file, they only have 2 frag grenades, no breaching rounds from the Ash or anything like that. And any other surprise they might be bringing to the table, like Fish and Amaru, that's going to be removed too. An early start for the Favelas, early aggression to take Fish off the board.
Still plenty of utility, but of course, having Fish, someone who's always so impactful, especially in the late round, not just the early round, is going to be definitely a minor setback here for investigation file. But they already have CZ playing towards the bottom of Freezer's stairs, but not able to get all too much done from that position, now having to wait for someone else to back him up to maybe burn through that one position as a whole. At least for now, investigation files can still set up by getting those back hatches opened up with the Excyrus charges and opening up some nice rotate, so they're not going to have to waste too much time on this top floor. But again, with Favelas having this utility set up so they can anchor in sight quite safely, it's not going to be all too much of a problem. They're just waiting on investigation file to make that first move, so they can just play off the man advantage they have currently on top of all this utility.
Well, investigation file have done a nice job in removing some of this utility. The deployable shield I highlighted earlier that Arrow was initially bunkered behind now has been destroyed. That's great progress given the early progress in terms of map control that investigation file have. Now that they're making progress on that utility, they are setting themselves up for success. Unfortunately, though, losing another body, Rudy, claiming that kill onto CZ. That is not going to look good if this man advantage doesn't swing back in the favor of the attack shortly.
Just about a minute left to go. Investigation file still trying to find some sort of weakness here in the defensive hold by Favelas. Eventually they end up spotting out onto Barring, but still, you have so much to cover in through Freezer. Enrio thankfully gets rid of Rudy, but it's still a 3 versus 3, and you don't have all too much control of this side of Freezer. And with these smoke grenades, making sure that investigation file cannot tag team from this side of the map, it's going to buy even more time for Favelas to just set up to play those trades.
Vivid, lit up, and vulnerable, but an even 3v3 nonetheless. And as we cross that 30-second mark, IF, well, they're certainly about to step up. The question is, from where? Vivid is still repositioning, still working his way around this laundry side, and Wimpy on the complete other side of this site, dropping through E-Box for a surprise of his own. He'll step right up and take a fight, but it's actually on the other side where the action is happening. It's Vivid to claim the kill onto Bio, leaving Slothy, the last player standing, to fight directly in a crossfire, and he gets taken down from behind. IF do a brilliant job of adjusting in the mid to late round and turning that 3v5 into a 3v0 in the end and winning it out themselves.
And although for investigation files, they had a 5-on-3, they were still fairly confident that they needed to work those 1-for-1s and still try to continue onward to make sure they were in the right places to get that execution down. good energy by CZ as well to try to confirm at least one, but at least I believe it was Ingrid eventually refragged for him eventually. And towards the end of that round, Wimpy, great patience as well, just waiting down that E-box hatch. And once the rest of investigation files caused enough chaos over towards Laundry and Freezer, when everyone had their eyes darted towards those two locations, that's when Wimpy went for the final drop. It all executed down at the exact same time and allowed him to once again cause enough chaos to help the rest of his team push forward as well, as they were still working a couple of 1-for-1s in their own side of the map as well. Really good last second execute by investigation file, despite the fact the early game wasn't too confident.
Well, we are going back to the basement site again, and the Favelas will be looking to make a couple of changes, right? In terms of that lineup, you're now adding the Aruni for the first time, as Slothy will pull that out, but sticking with a large majority of the rest of that hold. The only difference right now appears to be where they are holding. We don't have anybody actively in meeting room. We do have still 3 defenders lurking around on this first floor and staying active. That was the biggest surprise in that first round, John, was how aggressive the Favelas were early, and honestly how successful that was. And it looks like they are going to maintain that aggression one round later, spreading even further along throughout this map than before.
Several bodies up above, making sure that investigation file have to waste even more time and resources up above. Not a bad idea, since investigation files were down to about 20 to 30 seconds before they ended up getting fully prepared to hit that execution, but Favelas also being aware of knowing when to fall back. Rudy, receiving a lot of pressure up above, can now work his way back down and towards Freezer stairs and still break a couple of drones if he wants to, maybe work some sort of early gunfight. Same thing applies for Arrow as well, just this time he's in meeting, and he also has a fallback option as well, as he drops down the E-box hatch, hearing someone up above him from that second floor. So far, no entry game for investigation files, but at least they're dwindling down this roam presence bit by bit.
Ooh, a bit of explosiveness up above, and it actually is going to be Fish to claim the opener on that first floor. Nearly catches the second as Rudy drops back to the site, but Fish actually losing out in that scuffle in terms of simple HP trade, down to about 30 HP himself. Rudy will dart away to safety, back through Freezer and back towards the site, but that should allow IF now to secure complete control of the top 2 floors. Yeah, there it is. No more defenders up above. Everyone tucked below on the basement, albeit spread out on the basement floor. They now have the hatches opened wide, and IF are continuing to make some progress from there.
They need to make sure they can start burning through these smoke grenades as well. They're not going to have a lot of time to get this execute down and dusted. Slothy trying to work for one on the back stairs, but isn't able to connect enough shots. Good grenade tossed out, trying to force back that position, granting more map control for investigation file. And now with Inrio shutting down Slothy, this should be the final call to get things going for investigation file.
Ooh, Wimpy dropping down, but Fish claiming another kill despite being at so low HP still, making an impact, but Arrow fighting that trade, essentially a 2v2 unless Wimpy can be recovered. Fish dropped down, so Vivid, he's gonna have to come in clutch here. He will get the revive, and that is very important because Arrow and Bio, this is now a 2v2 for them, and they have to be a little bit more careful about what fights they take. But at the end of the day, Vivid still has to get this bomb down. It is his objective to do this, and, well, he doesn't have a ton of time. Here comes that pressure. The coverage, though, perfect from investigation file, and Vivid will line the final 2 defenders up. There's one, and there's the second to pull out the round.
Really close call for investigation file once again, but that last second execution, also getting off the plant to play for that proper 2v2, was the right call made to guarantee a second round win on the attacking half for investigation file. I like the idea of changing things up, heading more towards blue bunker and heading in through backstairs / E-box. It could be a little bit easier to deal with those smoke grenades, as that was a gigantic challenge for investigation file, back on round number 1, but it still made things a little bit challenging to fully work their way past blue bunker. And a major thing as well that almost guaranteed a victory there for Velas was the fact that that late lurk across the map was spotted out. There was good info inside of Freezer, so CZ couldn't accomplish all that much in the final 30 seconds, so it was just that backstairs presence working into the site. And because investigation file didn't have an ace up their sleeves, that's when they had to get hyper aggressive in that 2v2, but thankfully their guns were hot and they were able to still win those 1v1s to once again get a really solid win on their attacks, like I had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, back-to-back round wins. Attacking the basement site. Not easy to do here on Oregon. And so now they can shift their attention towards dorms because the Favelas are not keen to go to the same site thrice. They're going to change things up a little bit. And of course, by extension, their strategy will be changing quite a bit. Not an easy site to fully extend around the map on. If you're going to do it, it's generally a lot more limited compared to what we saw them attempt to do in that previous round. We do have a little bit of bottom floor presence from the Favelas, right? We saw the mute down below in security. Rather, Rudy is right now working his way through dining, but security is where he'll likely end up, watching the entry up above on the double window. It looked also like Slothy was lurking around, not on the site itself and darting all over this map, and there he is, not only lurking around in meeting room, but making a pretty good impact early, downing CZ, but Wimpy answers back beautifully. Well-placed nade to take him down.
CZ should be able to get revived. This could be a man advantage situation for Investigation File. And with their lineup on the board, it does seem like they want to try to have a very fluid or at least somewhat of a fast execute once they're finally ready to set that up. They've got the line to make sure everyone has to sit still. They can cover more of the site itself. And having that sense as well to maybe obscure a couple of sight lines that Favelas could use to slow down and execute definitely could be a good option as a whole here. Still having 90 seconds to work with. Good refrag, though, for the side of Favelas, and they shut down CZ as well, but still having that main factor of the Sens available could definitely put on a lot of hurt here in this next minute 20.
Loving the use of that Sens projector. That'll give Inrio the cover to enter into the site, allows Fish to get active as well, but Arrow shutting down one, barring the other, finding his triple kill, leaving the Sens, leaving Vivid all alone to fend for himself. Such a close call there. Looked like they had a chance to pull off a bit of a surprise, but in the end, Vivid now left out to dry and caught out in the open with nowhere to go. Love that attempt, but it's not going to work.
And it, on paper, it was also a good idea because it was a potential to maybe focus just on one portion of the map at a time, make it a little bit easier for the Sens to enter the site to get that defuse down. But with a lot of your lurk presence dying and being put in that 4 versus 3, that allowed Favelas to just solely focus in on those audible cues of hearing the Ash repel inside of Kids Room and also still having the Sens basically trapped outside on an island, not really able to back up the Ash whatsoever. You could play those 2v1s rather consistently, and just again, having that 4 versus 3 allowed a little more aggression to come out of Favelas and having more of the map in their back pocket to shut down that execute properly, despite the Sens for a moment there looking to be a bit of a scare for the side of Favelas. But now they get to comfortably work their way back down into the basement for bomb site, which hasn't been successful for them just yet, but they're looking to potentially change something by maybe having a bit more of a volatile roam game, perhaps, Jonah. We've seen them roam up above here countless times, but now they bring out the orcs to maybe allow for a bit better mobility, perhaps?
Right, maybe we're going to see Barring try to linger on this map even longer than before. Of course, risky when you're doing that. Even as an Oryx, you can dart up and down the hatches, but it's not the most low-key of maneuvers. Pretty predictable as well. Once the attacking side actually realizes they are dealing with an Oryx, then they know where to look, they know where to position, and they should be able to deal with you quickly. But it's not the Oryx who gets into the opening duel. Instead, it is the Warden of Arrow who's loving this operator on the basement site, but not even with his primary gadget, just with his weapon. He'll step up and take care of the Lion very early on into this round. Not the way IF were hoping to get their third success on this basement site. If they want to do it again, they're going to have to find a way to claw this man advantage back in their favor.
Investigation File, once again, aware that there is a heavy roam game afoot. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone was up T3 quickly enough to deal with Barring as he rotates back down. Having backup by Rudy as well, so if Wimpy wants to challenge this, that could be a very dangerous position for the lone Flores currently. Inrio is now up above, though, in Attic, so maybe he could deal with Barring, but currently doesn't have a very advantageous sightline to deal with this Orcs above. And honestly, they might just end up forgetting about him, perhaps. But nope, Bailiff will give away the Orcs' intentions, but Barring is just quicker on the draw. Now a two-man challenge could ensue from backstairs, but Wimpy knows better of it and just decides to fall back instead.
Ooh, great start now from the Favelas as Barring will double down on that early impact, trying to get away as he hears Wimpy sneaking around the other side, but he cannot dip away to safety early enough. So 1 kill found by Investigation File will, of course, be something, and will start to get them back in this fight, but still down 1 and running low on time. You lose your sledge, right? You lose your lion, and that is certainly going to be a hindrance when it comes to clearing out this map and then transitioning map control into an eventual execute. They still have plenty of utility, though, as we're seeing by these Flores drones, and that's something that Arrow has to worry about now, and Bio likely needs to be careful of soon enough.
Wimpy only having 2 Rotero drones, he's going to really need to value these things to break out the deployable shields. That one just close enough to break the elbow position, and he's got 1 more left to maybe break the one closer towards Closet as well, but the man advantage is still strongly in the favor of Favelas, even though the shields are now completely gone. Vivid winning a very important gunfight, but again, Favelas, they are still taking charge in these last 30 seconds.
Important kill there from Vivid, but he's going to have to come in clutch, much like he did on the basement site last time we were here. Still a 2v3. Vivid, with the case in hand, pushing now through elbow, flashing that player out, trying to make an impact there. The support from Wimpy is nearby, but it's not immediate enough. Wimpy cannot track down these 2 on-site defenders. He gets 1 in Freezer, but can he find the other 2? Not quite. It's Slothy instead who steps up and does the ultimate damage. Well played from him. Finally, the Favelas will make the basement site their own, and in doing so, tie us up 2-2.
And off the back of an incredible roam as well by the Favelas, we had Arrow start out with a very confident opening engagement win. Down went CZ, the Lion, which is so helpful to deal with that roam game early on and be helpful towards the execution rounds, something that Investigation File can tend to struggle with from time to time. But not only having Arrow win that opening engagement, but also having Rudy and Barring just playing so close together, making sure that Investigation File could not get most of the top floor or at least big tower control for free. It left a lot of problems for Investigation File. It costed them a lot of bodies up above because they just had to walk in 1 by 1, as you had Rudy making sure that no one could have the cutoff established for Barring if he needed to fall back, and that allowed Barring to take those 1-for-1 engagements up above. And once you eventually were granted that top and middle floor control, you were down at a 4v3, and again, very limited on any kind of utility to break those power positions. Once Investigation Files were able to finally break down those shields near elbow and closet, you just had Favelas getting hyper aggressive because they had the man advantage, and it left Investigation Files pretty much little to no options just based off of that team play that we saw in the early game. Incredible bounce back by Favelas.
Well, now is when things are getting even more interesting, because you take a look at this attacking IF lineup, and we've got the Glaz in play from CZ. Glaz, one of the 4 operators in this game who has frag grenades at this point, but CZ electing to bring the smokes. Reasonable, considering you're a Glaz and you can see through smokes, and that will add to the other set of smokes in Vivid's pocket. Rudy now, the first player to really feel the heat, but somehow winning that fight against Inrio? What in the world? CZ now hoping to get something back, but gets fried by Rudy? The Legion defying all odds and surviving in Big Tower. What a play from him. Bio's dead here, and that's something for IF, but good Lord, Rudy. That's a huge moment.
I mean, even he's shocked about it. He's surprised that he is able to live and work both of those kills, completely flatlining the main idea that Investigation File had of probably getting a smoke plant down with the coverage of that thermal scope, looking through the smoke and probably expecting no one to bring out a warden on a site like Meeting Room. This just really puts a wrench in the machine here for Investigation Powers. Once again, they are down at a player disadvantage, and they still have almost the whole top floor to clear out as well. There's still 3 players up above working near attic and kids room. This is a very disastrous position for Investigation Files, and they're relatively short on time considering they still have the whole top floor to clear out.
Yeah, there's not a lot they're going to be able to do if they keep moving at this pace. They have to make a lot of progress, and I mean, it's tough with only 3 bodies remaining to clear out this top floor, and I think it's tough enough that IF are electing not to do it at all. They're just going to allow Favelas to maintain that control and maybe hope that when they turn their attention to this meeting wall, that they can just blitz in and do the job the old-fashioned way with a hailstorm of bullets. Fish does it twice. That's a triple kill for him on the round. Wimpy wins that from below, taking care of Rudy finally. And just like that, the script is flipped. It's all up to Barring. Vivid securing that diffuser on the ground, barring no easy way to rotate back towards the site as Kitchen has been firmly locked out. And it's going to be Barring against the world, mostly against Fish because he's the player close around the corner, and he's going to swing right into Barring's waiting arms. There it is. Fish takes care of him. No problem. IF, what a turnaround from that bad start against Rudy.
That's why it's always so important to keep Fish alive. He's always been a great player towards that late round, managing to find some sort of hole in the armor here against Favelas this time around. I believe with that wall being opened up towards stage, that created a big enough distraction for most of Favelas to just focus on that one portion of the map, and I guess they just completely forgot about Kitchen. Fish able to get that immediate 1-for-1 and utilize the defender rotate to kill the guy playing close to stage, holding a rat angle for when someone tries to walk in and maybe get that plant down. Like you mentioned, the script just being completely flipped, despite Investigation File having basically no options. Like you had mentioned as well, they weren't really in a spot to get all too aggressive, so they remained very passive in that minute 20. But once the back wall had finally been opened up, Fish just figured it'd be a good time to start working across the map and trying to get some other control, and maybe being a big enough diversion to get the rest of his teammates in the bomb site. Work like a charm for Investigation File, and now they've got at least 3 rounds on the attack, which is incredible for them, and potentially 4 if they can keep up that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, they started out really hot, Favelas. They were able to work it back, and it looked like in round 5, the Favelas were going to be able to continue the momentum that they had built. But IF, they just say, you know what, we are going to bring it back. And they managed to grind out in an ugly 3v4, but they make it work. And they maybe get some of that momentum back on their side. One more round, like you said, John, would be huge for them to put themselves up at a 4-2 lead going into their defensive half. You never know how the Favelas are going to perform on the other side, but you'd love a 2-round cushion no matter how you spin it. The Favelas, though, looking to do something here, looking to add maybe to some of those early kills they've been able to find recently, but Rudy is going to get spotted out from both above and below, and he gets down.
No one really in a range to really help out Rudy here. Finished off eventually by CZ. Good teamwork by Investigation Files to confirm that early man advantage. And with only one other player currently on the first floor, it seems like for Investigation Files, once they deal with this person near Freezer, they could probably get a little bit closer towards hitting the site. At the very least, they could probably start working their way in through Kitchen and maybe getting some vertical down, since CZ is still alive and well and probably has plenty of shots left in that skeleton key. So not a bad start for Investigation File whatsoever, but that camera locating Inro's position could be very impactful for Favelas, as now they're aware there could be a late lurk in the game once you eventually see that execute brew up for Investigation.
Oh, but a quick drop from Fish is perfectly timed. Slothy was looking the other way, and IF have now secured 2, maybe a 3rd opening kill if they can track down Bio. Bio stays alive, but Arrow does not, and Wimpy will finish him off. So it's just Barring and Bio now, the smoke and the alibi against the world. 2v5, full minute left to work with for Investigation File, but I doubt they're going to wait that long to push on in. They can move in quickly, but Barring with a quick 180 will take care of CZ. This is now a fight all of a sudden, as a perfectly timed smoke will force Fish away. Vivid, though, this is where he makes his mark by getting this bomb down. Wimpy on the coverage, shuts down Bio as he tries to swing the angle, and Barring, even though he's going massive right now with 3 kills, he is on 1 HP and has to find 2 more of these attackers. There's one. Wimpy dealt with, and Barring with a quad on for the ace. Only Vivid to find. Sneaking around the other side, tearing Vivid apart. He is so close, and he's done it! The ace and the clutch to finish out the round. Barring goes absolutely nuclear and wins round number 6.
Great timing as well to swing out as the Dokkaebi was going in for a stun. Such an upset for the Dokkaebi, but a major play for Favelas. I mean, really that mid-round presence was their saving grace, as trying to retake that middle floor at all as vertical was going down. Just did not work out in the slightest. And the early game of having Rudy be dealt with so effectively by both CZ and Fish, it once again granted a really good stance for investigation files, but such a good job of being able to isolate those 1v1s in a 3v1 post plan as well. I mean, just you really can't get enough of that as well, barring impressive round by you. And that's got to be a real slugger for investigation file, because that round should have been a win for them all the way, Joe.
All the way. There was never a doubt that investigation file were going to win that round. It is the 1 HP barring that managed to win it out. I mean, they had to land 1 bullet on him through 3 walls onto his toe. That would have been enough to get the job done, and yeah, they could not land a single shot, and barring landed every single shot. What a way to finish out the half. Very exciting for the Favelas. Obviously, they're still tied up, and there's still a lot of siege to play, but that's gotta feel good for the veteran, and I'm confident that on the other side of things, investigation file, that's gotta be a pretty big blow to the system. But now, we're switching sides. In theory, if they can shake that one off quickly, we're right back on even footing, and it is still anyone's game.
Yeah, still a 3-3 split when starting out on the attack is not bad at all for investigation file. Let's hope they can keep a majority of that momentum in the right direction. Now working over on the defense. Fish might be able to work some sort of early gunfight, but I'm just falling back instead, maybe being a little bit closer to the rest of this extension on the first floor, as now Favelas are looking to close in on this play near the kitchen side. They have someone working their way in through Big Tower, barring as well, trying to work his way potentially up the Z hallway if not needing. So good positions overall for the Favelas, but CZ is still able to catch out on Bio. Your Twitch is now gone, but still barring almost catching that mute as he falls back down through Freezer stairs. That could have been a great defrag there for the Favelas.
But they don't find it. No refrag. Just 1 body gone. Barring taking a little bit of damage there as well. A couple of early scuffles here as we cross that 2-minute mark and we work our way towards the halfway point through this round. I mean, looking at the map control, looking at the progress the Favelas has made, there's still a little bit to be desired. You still got 2 IF defenders on this first floor, and now the Favelas have lost 2 bodies. Fish will lob this C4 out, barring just in the nick of time, will shoot it out, but he is not out of the woods yet. A couple of these defenders still lurking around.
Yeah, once again, just falling back. Potentially with the hatch not being opened up, this could be a good spot. Actually, I believe it has been opened up, as that's why the Ayana is currently watching it, but yeah, it has been opened up. And Fish can just play pretty comfortably from that freezer stairs position, but he's already wasted enough time. He'll just fall back, play for the man advantage now, as it's doubled up once again for investigation files. They just cannot be stopped currently on this round.
What?
CZ, you've got to be kidding me. The rotate through shower hallway. Everyone's dropped dead near Z hallway. Investigation files, what a bounce back after such a biblical loss on your last attacking round.
Wow, that is IF to bring it right back. I mean, after the demoralizing finish, just 1 round to go. I mean, once again, they completely flip things around and take the round win. Good gosh, that was dominant right back. It seems like it is going to be a serious matchup right now if the Favelas can continue to find that defensive success now on the attacking side, because man, that one was dominant from IF right after a crazy clutch from barring. But if you're looking at the way these last few rounds have played out, if you're looking at it on paper and you are maybe saying, okay, barring, you got 5 kills there, but why was that necessary? If that's your thought process, then you're probably going to conclude that IF are certainly on top right now. They've won that round dominantly, and they should have won the round before, but it barely slipped away. I'd argue that IF are looking like the better team right now.
Seemed like for Favelas, they were just a little bit too isolated when trying to fully collapse in on that roam clear. Happens to the best of us. They definitely had the right idea in mind, so just being a little more bundled up would be the perfect storm to do a little bit better in on this clear. But investigation file, they're utilizing the map to its fullest potential, having that light extension over in from trophy room, looking into that master bedroom position, which a lot of teams like to try to do early round, and also having a roam game all the way downstairs in the basement. I believe that's being wielded out by Fish. We saw how effective that last second flank was by CZ, so maybe Fish will try to replicate that this time on the Thorn. But Favelas, once again, they were trying to deal with pretty much every single pressure point as quickly as they could in the early round. So I wouldn't be too shocked if they have a rough idea that someone could be playing underneath. And that is a very major pick to find so early in this round. The smoke already dead. A lot of stall potential just off the board now for the defense.
Oh, it looks like that overconfidence maybe is starting to creep in for IF. Another aggressive run out attempted, and that's going to result in CZ falling away. Wimpy, though, continuing that aggression, will take a fight and win it. So, yes, you've lost the smoke early, and losing CZ is no fun either, but at least you've got one kill at least one kill to speak for. Barring, though, will take another, and, well, there goes Inrio. Barring again on the swing, that's 3. Eventually, he's down, but after claiming so much blood on the side of IF, it is only up to Fish right now, and he cannot dodge the bullets of Rudy fast enough behind the bomb chassis. Another round where these teams continue to keep trading blows.
And once again, barring being a great playmaker in the mid round, I was thinking in the back of my head why we didn't see anyone on Favelas trying to work their way through, the main stairs heading up towards Armory and then Trophy Room to, again, have multiple attacking points when they were trying to clear out Master. Well, eventually that happened. Barring finally got his way in through Trophy Room and just, once again, caused so much chaos that it eventually just allowed so many openings to be capitalized on by Favelas in those last couple moments of the attacking round. And we almost saw that as well in round number 7 when we had Barring working his way down in through Z hallway, trying to get that refrag confirmed on the person working down Freezer stairs. So far, Favelas in the late round have been much stronger in comparison to what we saw in the early round. Let's hope they can keep that up, trying to now attack in through Meeting Room, which is on paper, the most attacker favored site out of the 3 to 4 you can pick on Oregon. But still, if you make a couple of mistakes in the early round, if you can't get that roam game dealt with, then that could be a major problem for the Favelas.
That's a great point. You've also got to consider that IF showing that they do want to keep the Favelas on their toes and change up the site. At least they're not going to dorms again, right? Which is something that you might have expected, honestly, considering how powerful dorm can be as a defensive site. But I guess IF are saying, John, that, you know what? The Favelas, if you're going to take dorms confidently, we will switch things up. We're not going to allow you to roll over us again. At least that's the idea. Heading to Meeting and Kitchen is always a risk. As you said, a tough site to defend. But if you maintain some good map control and you really keep a good watch on Meeting and are careful of any sort of rushes or fast attempts from the attack, then it is absolutely a defendable objective. And it looks like the Favelas won't be going for one of those quick executes. Like we mentioned, it does appear that they will be taking their time and trying to get as much control over this map as they can.
And for the Favelas, it's not going to be too challenging setting up the, post-plant position, having both the OSA for some long-range engagements that are going to favor them with those talent shields, and also having the Thatcher Thermite combination to open up the back wall leading into sight for that post-plant. That isn't going to be the problem. What is the problem, again, is making sure that no one can counteract that by playing up above. Wimpy, really good timing on that spray down, gets rid of Arrow, your Heart Breacher. And I'm not 100% sure if they actually got the back wall opened up. This could be a major issue now for the Favelas. Like we saw earlier,
no.
Just perfectly highlighted by Nova. Yeah, they did not get the back wall open. This is really troublesome now for the offensive side.
Yeah, the Favelas, they know their only option is to just send it in now. Every doorway they can find. But the only thing they found now is a bunch of bullets right in their faces as they walk through those doorways. There's no other way you can put it. Bio is now the last player standing after every one of his teammates tried to just walk in a doorway, take a gunfight, and ended up losing it. Bio will get one back onto Inrio, removing one of these remaining defenders from play, but with CZ, Vivid, and Wimpy on the prowl, I was going to say, not the best situation for the longtime veteran of this game, but Claymore kill brings him back into it. Now it's a 1v2, and he's got some angles to work with.
Seems like investigation files are fully aware of that, though. Even an alibi clone detecting the lone Osa's presence as well. This does not seem to be very winnable here for Bio, as everyone has a good read on him as of right now.
Case around the corner, though, and he will recover that. working his way into meeting. So many angles to check, and he has no intel. 2 drones active, and he could put them into play, but choosing to face check angles right now just because he is low on time. Honestly, a good call at this point. Only 10 seconds remain, and he's got to find 2 kills or somehow get this bomb down, and it's not going to be possible. IF take another. Those final 2 defenders staying passive enough that Bio did not find the opportunity to get those kills.
And starting off the back with a fantastic opening kill by Wimpy. Sure, it's a little bit of luck that who he killed was the hard breacher, one of the main operators that Favelas needed to attack. But when you're playing above an addict, specifically towards that back drop position, you're normally inclined to be very aggressive as is. So Wimpy just playing his position perfectly and being rewarded just as well on top of that too. And he died to the Claymore because he was just overextending, once again trying to get aggressive in an aggressive position. You really can't fault the guy for doing so, especially since he's going 9-6 currently, really having a good performance so far in this best of 1. And what Favelas having their hands tied, like we saw by Investigation File, they try to do the exact same thing their opponents did a few rounds earlier. They get aggressive in the site, trying to work those 1-for-1s, but they weren't as lucky getting those kills in their way. Puts us in about a 4 versus 2, and then eventually dwindles down to Bio being in a 2 versus 1 with a crossfire well established by Investigation File. Really everything from the very beginning just well done by Investigation File, all starting out with Wimpy just getting a great entry.
Well, we've got a serious game on our hands here, John, because after the first 2 rounds went IF's way, then the next 2 rounds went the way of the Favelas. Every single round since has been back and forth. It went IF, then the Favelas, then IF, Favelas, IF again. And the Favelas, of course, hoping to keep that pattern alive, will be working with a bit of a different lineup on this round 10 attack, bringing out the Buck for the first time in the hands of Bio, bringing out the Thatcher as well with Rudy, just trying to make sure that they have as many options as possible when approaching this basement site. No need for those secondary EMPs that were recently added to the game if you've got the man himself who brings those proper EMPs in his pockets.
Along with that as well, that just gives you more room for just secondary utility, like those grenades and other pieces of burn as well. So always nice to see Thatcher in play, especially since his ban rate has substantially dropped over the past couple of weeks in the newer season. Favelas almost done with fully clearing out this roam game by Investigation File. There is still Inrio up above, but he's just about ready to fall back, trying to work some sort of pick, but eventually he'll get away with his life. Unfortunately, the same thing cannot be said for CZ, as he is ripped to shreds by Arrows Type 89, but still, at least it's a little bit better than losing potentially 2 players as a whole, but a great clear by Favelas.
Right, it's that good old-fashioned fallback point where, you reach about halfway through the round and the defense knows that they've done their job in terms of time waste. Now the only problem is getting back to the site safely, and while we did see one player do it, CZ could not secure a safe retreat. However, we are back in a 4v4 as Wimpy, who has still refused to back off, in Garage right now, is really tearing this attack apart. A C4 kill to add on to that. Of course, Fish will fall just as Wimpy is taken down as well. So despite the good presence upstairs from the Mira, that high risk, high reward strategy netted 2 kills, but not much more because it is still a 2v3 favoring the attack now with, well, Vivid, now the last player standing as Inrio is taken care of, darting back towards the objective. Vivid, with 3 smoke canisters in pocket, will have to use these to perfection because he has a lot of angles to cover to prevent 3 players from walking in on him. He gets one, but cannot secure the second. Arrow having a nice round to keep this trend alive. The back and forth continues.
And the second Favelas spotted the problem of having Wimpy still above, they immediately forgot about every other thing they were working on towards that last minute 20 and just tried to hunt down this last roamer up above. Because of that, Wimpy only able to find 2. It's still that equal man position, and I believe it was having Slothy still working his way down Freezer as well once that problem had been dealt with, to make sure that it wasn't a full congestion back for that last second pushback towards both Freezer and Laundry Room. It allowed for Favelas to still have that man advantage and still have a really clear shot at getting into the bomb site and having a good execute as a whole. If Wimpy had just any bit less pushback towards him near Garage, that could have been a completely different round, as he still was able to find 2 kills. But again, almost everyone was focusing on Wimpy besides the people who had already died to his hands, and again, Slothy, who was working his way down Freezer. So great bounce back by Favelas once again. And like we have both talked about now, it's still just neck and neck between Favelas Investigation File. Really no advantage being granted so far for both.
Yeah, ever since those first few rounds, it has been back and forth. And yeah, like you said, no one really showing anything extremely dominant. It's been one round after another where a couple different things may come out, right? We saw IF in that last round. Maybe throw Wimpy in Garage, have him linger for a bit longer, surprise the attack if they can. And while it did have its moment to shine, it also didn't end up working because Wimpy fell, and the support that tried to save Wimpy ended up falling too. For the Favelas, we'll be keeping things fluid once more by throwing Rudy on the Amaru, bringing in that Gara hook and, showing that maybe he could hop in and get aggressive at any point.
A couple different options you can work with here for the Amaru, but before you want to Gara hook into anywhere, at least you have that secondary hard breach, so you can also begin to work your way in through Addict as well. You're not fully relying on the Amaru just as kind of a one-off trick idea. It also brings a little bit more value to the team than just trying to cause a bit of chaos inside of the bomb site itself. Bell is still trying to deal with that small extension instead of armory. Eventually they realize it's clear, so they begin to push a little bit closer in towards the building. And Wimpy, still having a bunch of utility to waste even more time inside a trophy. All he has to do now is just be careful of anyone working their way through those back stairs, but eventually he realized that someone is beginning to hop their way into the building, so now he goes for the fall back. Really good timing by Wimpy.
Now Barring creeping his way up, maybe hoping to catch some defender off guard, but it looks like everyone has repositioned. No active member in trophy itself. Bio was also trying to make a move, but CZ wasn't having it. Took a little bit of damage, but the Jaeger gets out relatively unscathed, and claiming the opening kill here for IF is a great place to start. Rudy will also try to make an advance here in Attic, working troublingly close to the site at this point. If you're IF, you've now got several attackers not only in position around the site, but in it. Rudy goes all the way up to take these fights, and Vivid is now feeling a bit of the pressure. The wall behind him opening up. Arrow trying to find this angle, and eventually Vivid falls. Wimpy's gone. Inrio's taken care of. Fish and CZ have to make something work. Thankfully for IF, Fish will take care of Slothy and return us to a 2v2 unless these two fallen defenders can be recovered. Barring's not going to let that happen on Wimpy. As Arrow is taken care of, it will leave the work all up to Barring once again, but he walks into Fish and falls soon after. Round 11 goes the way of IF, and once again, we continue to go back and forth.
Unfortunate timing as well by the Amaru to try to charge their way in through that drop of Addict. I think the idea there for Rudy was to make sure that no one could be peeking towards that back door once the breach had finally gotten opened up, but because the wall still was fully intact, the castle could just sit quite comfortably behind it, work that 1-for-1 against the Amaru, and now Slothy on the Ayana has to now fill that gap that Rudy was most likely going to be taking with some backup by Barring towards the late round. Again, once Arrow was able to accomplish his job on the Habana, just some small mistiming made an incredible difference in that last minute 30 for Investigation File to once again isolate these 1-for-1s and again make sure that they can just solely focus in on certain parts of the map. Once you lose out on that attic control, you can have everyone just darting their eyes towards that trophy door and the back breach that had just been opened up from the closet wall, despite Slothy, of course, ending up filling that void once again for Rudy, but that still took time for Investigation File to again capitalize on the fact that no one's playing there at the current moment. And now Favelas, once again, at a 1-round disadvantage, but so far it really has only been, a 1 to 2 round disadvantage throughout this entire game, Jonah. I wouldn't be too shocked if they come back and win this round to put us into overtime.
I mean, yeah, overtime feels expected at this point, but the Favelas still have to be careful because they are not the ones on match point. IF have a chance to put this game away in regulation and prevent Favelas from even securing 1 point in this game. IF currently stand at 1-3, 1 regulation win, 3 regulation losses, and on the other side, it's the Favelas with 2 regulation wins and 1 regulation loss. So this could be a fantastic equalizer for IF in terms of the overall standings. If they can get this win right now, knock the Favelas down a peg, and continue to bring themselves up the leaderboard for stage 3. They'd love to do that here, I'm sure, and they're gonna try to do it with a basement defense to close us out.
They're not really trying to overexert themselves. They don't want to try to lose out on any opening gunfight, since the Favelas have at least been good at dealing with one or two roamers when they have to go for this full top to bottom clear when Laundry is the site away for investigation file. So they're going to let Favelas just kind of waste their own time and kind of take the map for free, quote unquote, but they still, again, they have no idea that there is a heavy bunker up until now. So it's still the same time frame of getting these hatches opened up. It's just less risk for investigation file and potentially more reward for investigation file in the late round, because now they have more bodies to play. It's not a 5-on-4 favoring Favelas off the wall.
Yeah, they're still sitting pretty. Obviously, the pressure up above is going to continue to build as Arrow, for example, gets open this E-box hatch, but IF have all their bodies in position to hold this site down. They still have their mirror windows. They still have elbow control. They still have someone in pillar. They have every defender in a reasonable position to stop this push.
Still have plenty of time here for Favelas, but still a lot of positions that you need to clear out. There could be someone over near Harry Potter, for example, that Favelas aren't fully aware of, and there's still so much utility on the side investigation file. Countless C4s, a few smoke grenades left as well, and Favelas just slowly burning more and more time off their clock, and they are still relatively low on that time now. Just about 40 seconds, and Bio is still waiting to push in through Blue Bunker.
Yeah, finally, we're going to see Favelas try to step up, but Fish isn't going to allow Bio to do that. He's going to try to hold off the next player, and he does, but Slothy on the other side of the site gets two very big kills right back. CZ, though, lines 2 up, but only comes away with 1. We're in an even 2v2. It is still anyone's game with 20 seconds left on the clock. Fish has to be careful, so does Arrow, both so low HP. So Barring is going to be the one to take this control. He's stepping all the way up, going all the way around towards Laundry. The back of Inrio potentially exposed, but he'll turn around at the right moment and he'll get them both. IF hang in there and put it away in regulation, breaking the back and forth streak at the perfect moment to win this one 7-5.
And so many moving pieces because of that 5-on-5. Still, investigation files just unwilling to give anything away for free on that basement floor bomb site, because again, they didn't really overcommit to anything in that early round. That was a fantastic change up for investigation file to make sure they had everything, and I mean everything, accounted for. Because the smoke was alive playing near Harry Potter, that could stall for time over and backstairs. That only leads E-box drop and Blue Bunker to walk in through. And with Fish completely shutting out anyone of walking in through Blue Bunker directly, that led to pretty much just an E-box drop down. And that's exactly what CZ was watching. Everything accounted for there by investigation file, and they really did deserve that final round to get that full regulation victory here, 7-5. And hey, the underdogs, they technically did it if you want to consider it that.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying on paper the Favelas were looking a little better. That's why they had, more of us in their corner in terms of our overall predictions. But IF shaping into the team we know they can be. I mean, individually, all 5 of those players are incredibly talented. And finally, they are starting to mesh, and it's really good to see. That was something our analysts highlighted, so we'll let them talk a bit more about that. We'll throw it back to our analyst desk to wrap up this third game of the day.
I have to admit, it is an absolute shame, Connor, that we did not see a full matchup with this, because, man, if you wanted any game to go the distance, it was this one. This might be one of the closest matchups we've seen all stage.
Yeah, this was LeBron versus Kobe, but instead it was Barring versus Fish. Not something I really predicted I was going to say, but both of these players were playing out of their mind, looking so dang good while they're doing it. Barring on this essentially 1v5 ace clutch retake, that was ridiculous. And CZ on that 4K looked incredibly talented, and those were his first 4 kills. He was slow. And the biggest thing I want to highlight on investigation file is a certain man that we kind of have a love-hate relationship with. We love to hate on him sometimes, but mainly we love him. Vivid. This was the first time that we have seen Vivid drop double digits in so long. The last time that he dropped double digits, all 3 of us, we were clean shaven. Look at us now.
Well, Tanner, looking between these two teams, obviously we had the edge leaning towards Favelas. what was the difference maker here? Why did we see Investigation File take it? Was it them stepping up to the plate? Were Favelas falling apart? Combination of the two?
I think it had to do mainly with Investigation File having really solid attacks. I think for the most part, they had I had about a 4-2 attack half. And we went into this, both teams, the biggest thing we were noting on them is, they both can't attack for anything. So when Investigation File was able to pull out a 3-3 half on this map, defense has always been where they're really strong. It basically solidified that. And I think that has to do a lot with off of the back of Fish. He was taking a lot of space. He was making a lot of plays happen. And his team was doing a very good job of following up those plays and getting plants down and making sure that they were securing map control. And it felt like most of the rounds on defense for Favelas, they were having to try and do a retake into map control that was already taken by Fish. So I got to give commendation to Investigation File for stepping up their attack game, and specifically Fish for being that space maker that made a massive difference for them today.
Well, speaking of space maker, I'm going to make some space right now for Inrio. We'll do the interview with him, ask him a few questions about his team. Inrio, big win for you guys. Congratulations. What did the prep work look like going into this matchup? Because this was a hard fought one.
I'm gonna be honest, we didn't do no prep work. We just showed up and played the game, if I'm being completely honest.
So is that the secret to your system then? Is it playing it naturally?
Not really. We prefer to do prep work, but during like the week and stuff, people have things to do, so we don't really scrim that often as I would say other teams. But that's no excuse for like winning or losing regardless. It's just we do what we have to do and we show up and hopefully we play the game and hopefully win.
Now, this was up until those last two at the very end, starting from round 4. This was a back and forth matchup. What made it so difficult for either team, do you think, to gain momentum over the other one in this match?
I say just like the small mistakes and like hearing missed calls and stuff like that. Because like on that Barring when he got the ace, Fish misheard something, so he died, and then Barring just won the 1v2, which gave him the ace and stuff like that. Just really just small things.
Well, thank you for your time, Inrio. Congratulations on the win. This is a good win for you guys. You're now 2-3, so let's keep the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.
Man, hard fought victory. Well earned, though. They did play well. Tanner, you pointed it out. This is just a team that kind of was doing the right things finally that we know. And Jonah said it as well. This team is stocked with talent, and we did get that on display today. Okay, one more matchup to go today. It is going to be the... Oh, yes, Connor?
I was just saying there's one more.
Oh, I thought you were saying, excuse me.
I'm accenting
excuse me.
and, I'm being your backup posse.
I appreciate it. My quiet hype man in the background. Last
Background.
matchup of the day after the break. It's going to be the battle of the basement for this stage. Unemployment taking on Oculix. You're not going to want to miss it.